the Northern Territory drop down from 2 seats in the House of Representatives to just 1. It's an issue that's been casting a shadow over politics in the Northern Territory for some time now. Senator Malarndirri McCarthy is Senator for the Northern Territory. Good morning. Why is now the right time to push for this?
Well, it clearly is important because the Australian Electoral Commission will begin its review as of July. June is our next sittings date. I have certainly been briefed in relation to the fact that there is a concern, and it looks impending, that we will lose 1 seat. Our parliamentary library in the federal parliament also projects that as well. So if we're going to move, we now need to do that.
When you say it's impending, do you mean that it looks like we will actually lose that seat?
That's correct.
So what can you do to stop that from happening?
Well, what Labor is proposing is a private senator's bill. So Don Farrell, who's the shadow minister for this particular area, and myself will introduce a private senator's bill into Parliament in June and seek the support of the Senate to look at legislating to keep both seats of the Northern Territory in legislation so that we do not have to have a problem of losing it.
Why should people care if we lose a seat in the House of Reps?
People should care because we don't want to lose our Northern Territory voice. We have 4 representatives now with 2 senators and 2 lower house members. And in my view, that's certainly still not enough. I'd like to see the Northern Territory become a state where we have equal representation like the rest of the country. But if we cannot afford to lose what little we already have in the 4 positions in the federal parliament.
I might draw you a little bit more on your ambitions to be a state in just a moment. This kind of thing historically has happened in the Northern Territory before, hasn't it?
It has happened before, Joe, and we've seen that the concern around losing this seat has happened, but the Parliament did step in to ensure that that didn't take place. And now we're seeing this happen again. If I could just take your listeners back to our history, we have, from the beginning in 1922, had 1 seat of the Northern Territory until around 2000, the year 2000, when it was then divided into 2 seats, the seat of Solomon and Lingiari. And in 2003, there was a threat that it could possibly go back to 1 seat, and the federal parliament did move then to make some amendments that impacted that decision, but it wasn't legislated. We are now facing that same problem again here in 2020, and we believe that it needs legislation so that we don't have to have this threat again in a couple of years' time or more.
And this has happened in other parts of Australia, hasn't it, to have a legislated number of representatives in the House of Reps?
Well, you have to look, say, for example, at Tasmania, which has 5 seats in the lower house, and yet our population in both Solomon and in Lingiari, we have more elected members in each of those seats than in each of the 5 seats in Tasmania. And the reason why they are able to have 5 seats is because they're considered, if we go back to Federation, they're considered as one of the original states. And so we are always at a disadvantage, the Northern Territory, pretty much since South Australia surrendered us under the Surrender Act of 1908.
Every now and then the idea of becoming a state comes up, and I always love the arguments for and against. What's your argument for becoming a state, Senator?
Oh, look, very much so that we need to have equal representation. We are citizens in this country like our fellow Australians in the States, and at this stage we only have half a vote, half a voice. And when any referendum comes around, even if we were to vote, say, for example, on a voice to Parliament, we would still only have half a vote in that. And when we look at our First Nations population here, that seems highly unfair.
Is it a fight you're willing to start now, or is it just something that you think about?
Look, I think the fight here is to maintain the voices that we do have with 4 representations. We must not lose the 4, and eventually over time I would certainly want to see more, but we're not there yet. but let's not lose the four positions that we have in the federal parliament.
Senator, thank you very much for your time. That's Senator Malarndirri McCarthy on ABC Radio Darwin.